Celebrity Stage Stories is an Edge magazine special presentation. Each issue of Edge explores a compelling theme with an intriguing blend of essays, articles, and photography, along with interviews with the biggest names in TV, movies, music, and more. Visit Edge Magazine's website for free digital versions of the magazine, exclusive digital content, and more at edgemagonline.com, and follow them on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram today. Now, on with the show.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Celebrity Stage Stories with Jerry Strauss. He is I am him. We are all here because of our friends at Edge Magazine. And of course, we are here with an amazing conversation ahead of us. You know, we've had stars of stage and screen on this show before, but we're going to take things to a new level. We're going to update and modernize things because we have someone who is a star of stage, screen, and would we say video game console as a third category. We have the multi-talented and wonderful ANJALI BHIMANI. How are you, ANJALI?
I'm great, and I love the intro. That's very fun.
Does that work, do you think?
Yeah,
I mean,
and screen and console and PC, wherever you want to find. I always say, I don't care where you find me. I care that you find me. So yes, I'll take it.
We're gonna talk about all of it, and this is really our first time with somebody on the show where we can kind of dive a bit into that video game world. So I'm excited about that. But I want to start at the beginning with you because I'm always fascinated by people who are clearly they're destined to be artists, right? Like as you were in your life in so many different ways. But finding out that both of your parents were doctors.
Oh, you did do it. I love it.
I did. And I mean, to me, and this is maybe an assumption, so you tell me what it was actually like, but it feels like there's going to be somewhat of an uphill battle there early in your life, away from the practical and towards sort of that opportunity to chase your dream. Did that take some convincing as far as dealing with your family?
So I do have an unusual story, but I also have an unusual opinion about why the common misconception is not necessarily always true. So my parents were extraordinary in many, many ways, not the least of which is they met in medical school acting in a play.
Oh.
So yeah, I know it's a crazy thing because, you know, medical students have so much free time. They decided to do it in spare time. So and it's a lovely story and it's very cute and you know, all of that. But so they already had a love of the arts, both of them. My father had been an actor for a while. And since for him, acting was not an option as a career in India, he chose the other thing he loved and went into, you know, surgery. And my mom had a love of the arts as well. So both of them understood and appreciated the artistic side of things. And this goes to what I was saying about wanting to buck that common misconception. I really do believe that so many people who are not necessarily in artistic professions are still artists in one way or another in their lives. They just may not be following that career. So the challenge sometimes with traditional parents, or even just, you know, parents who worry about their kids, traditional or non-traditional, because my parents were a little bit of both. I think the challenge is assuring them that you will be okay if you choose that career. And for me, that was the only thing that I needed to prove to them because they saw that I loved it. They saw that I really was serious about it. They knew that I was going to go to school about it. And I think their only concern was, oh God, how is our girl going to make a living? Is she going to be okay? Is she going to have stability? It's such a difficult career path. So that was the part that was challenging because I just had to prove to them and myself that this was a viable career. So I took it very seriously, the same way I would have taken any subject seriously in school. Yeah. And I took the doing of it and the, you know, paying my bills of it and all of the practical matters that you have to take care of as seriously as you would if you were a businessman or a lawyer or a you know, anything, a businesswoman or a lawyer or any, you know, business person. And I think that for me was really the only challenge. As far as their encouragement, I mean, I know my parents would have encouraged me no matter what I chose. Yeah. And, you know, there was a beautiful moment when I was talking with my dad several years ago before he passed away. And I asked him, if you weren't a doctor, what else would you have been? And he said, an actor, hands down. So that moment of knowing that you're living out a part of their lives that they didn't necessarily get to explore. Because my mom felt the same way, and recently found out like a year ago. I know she kept that to herself, which was amazing. That part, knowing that you're living out one of their dreams and that they gave so much to me, that's a really special thing for me.
Yeah,
So, yeah,
especially clearly something they were so passionate and maybe to a point even tempted to follow themselves, and
absolutely.
instead
I mean, even after moving here, my dad, they did did they do 3 plays? No, they did 2 plays down. My parents lived in Orange County, and my mom still lives there. And they did 2 plays at like community theaters where they, got tickets out to the whole Indian community. They did them in their native language, in Gujarati, which is an Indian dialect. And they did it once. They did a 1-act play, and once they did a 3-act play. And this was while they were also doctors. So again, you had overachievers in the family.
was there a point in your growing career, or whether it was a moment, an achievement, maybe a job that you landed, that was that turning point where it went from I need to try to prove to them that this could be a viable career to here we go, we're on our way now, we've made it, this is the first step towards something big?
I would probably say it was my first Broadway show. And not just, okay, I'm off the hook,
Yeah.
but my sense of, okay, I've finally done something that I know how proud you are of me no matter what I do, but I know that this is special. And one of my favorite pictures that I have from that opening night is my dad hugging me with tears in his eyes. And you don't see me, you just see his face. And knowing that special experience was made 10 times more special for me because I got to bring them into it. I could not, and because of the play it was this extraordinary play called Metamorphoses with a director that I love and is a dear friend of mine named Mary Zimmerman. We've done 18 productions together. And this one we took from a tiny little production in Chicago, making like $200 a week. We took that and then we took it around the country, and then we went off Broadway, and then we went to Broadway. So that was so dear to my heart and such a foundational part of my acting career. To this day, people will come up to me on the street and say, I remember you from that show, which is crazy because it's theater and you don't really expect that. You don't expect that level of connection with people for a long time. So that I think was the first moment when I felt like, okay, my heart can rest assured that I'm doing the right thing, not just doing right by them. Let's put it that way. I'm doing right by them. I know I'm doing the
Gotcha.
right thing, but now I'm doing right by my parents.
You talk about your parents, but Mary Zimmerman is a name I was going to bring up as well, because
Good, because she's the freaking best.
and she's so attached to so many things. As you said, what, 18 different projects that you guys have?
We did 18 productions, including remounts, but she, similarly to what you said about me, she is like, she can fit into anything. Like she directs and creates opera. She does Shakespeare. She does most of the things that she has done over the course of when I've known her have been adaptations of a variety of pieces of literature, whether, the first show I did with her was like a 7th century or something like that, Persian poem, or she takes the ancient Greeks, she takes stuff from all over as her source material and turns it into something magical.
Speaking of magical, I mean, from your perspective, and for those of us who've never maybe experienced that level of artistic collaboration, we hear this story a lot. Even, I mean, I don't know why the name Robert De Niro, Martin Scorsese come to mind, but just those partnerships, those creative collaborations that seem to transcend and really grow both careers. Like everybody seems to benefit from just those perfect partnerships. What does that do for you as a performer to be able to have someone whom you can work with where that vibe is just there to create that magic?
Well, look, I will tell you the greatest first gift that I got from it was I was not a secure person. I didn't have a tremendous amount of confidence. I put it out there that I did, but I didn't. And I was young and I was still, trying to make it and all this, or whatever you want to call that. Making it is a whole different concept, but trying to make my way as a performer. And what Mary instilled in me was, okay, I may not believe in myself, but she does. And look at who she is. She is an extraordinary human that could be working with anyone. And she not only picked you, but she writes around you, which is what she does for all her actors. Depending on the show, she she is not married to anything. If it doesn't sound right in your voice, she might rewrite it. She often will cast an ensemble of people when she's starting a new adaptation. She'll cast an ensemble of people, but not know what all of their roles are going to be. And you get new pages until, right before tech. So that instilled in me, one way or the other, whether I was able to internalize it for myself or not. And it took me many years to feel comfortable in my own skin. But I mean, it can bring me to tears at any moment to think about. She gives that gift to people, and I don't think she realizes what a gift it is, because to her, this is how it should be done.
Yeah.
It's just that for her, this is how it is done.
But and it, as you said, it's also just the knowledge of her standards, and the fact that you fit into those standards has to be such a confidence booster in and of itself.
Yeah, and her loyalty, and I hate using the word loyalty because it makes it sound like people who recast other people are disloyal, but she's tenaciously hangs on to the people that she loves, and she tenaciously fights for them. And that has also been a rare thing that you find in this industry, is someone who is not only your champion, but will go into battle for you. Because obviously when you take a show to Broadway, the producers probably want to fill the cast with stars. And she was like, yeah, no, you get my cast or you don't get the show. And she just has such a brilliant mind and a good heart. And I just love her so much.
Clearly a huge influence on your career so far. Yeah. I want to ask about the influence of something else on your career that has become such a big part of it, which is the world of video games. Now, I go back and I think to, conversations I've had. I remember, interviewing years ago, Ming-Na Wen, whom is now part of the Star Wars universe. And she talked at length about how she was so into what then would be called nerd and sci-fi culture back when she was younger, that she feels like she manifested her way into the world of Marvel and into the world of Star Wars. Is that the case for you?
It sure is. I was just going to say my story is not that different. So not just in video games though. So I started playing Dungeons and Dragons when I was 8. I grew up playing video games because that was like when computers were first. I'm back in my day when we didn't have computers. Like computers had just really come on the scene. Yeah. And so that was a huge part of my childhood. It was a huge part of my world. But back in the day, it was not popular to play games, right. And it was not cool to play D&D. So there was this sense of like a dual life that I was living. That was the things that were accepted in the mainstream, and then the things that maybe I had to do later. So, in college, I would take class all day. I'd do 6 hours of dance rehearsal, and I'd come home and I'd play Dungeons and Dragons games on my computer. In fact, when I was doing Metamorphoses, I would go home between shows on a Sunday or a Wednesday, and I'd be playing Heroes of Might and Magic. Like I remember these distinct periods of time. So being able to come back to the gaming world, particularly the tabletop role-playing world, because I have a very, very strong affinity for that. And I'm not as good at console video games because once things turned into first-person shooters, I'm not coordinated enough for that magic. But it definitely felt like coming back to my people, and maybe I was coming at it from a different side of the screen, but my appreciation of it and my excitement about it was just the same. And I get so excited to meet other people who are doing them. And I get so excited to meet the community around my games. Not my games, our games, really. I don't like calling people fans in terms of that, because a game does not, or a property of any kind, does not really have that big a life without a community that supports it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and
I feel like the term fan really separates people. It separates us from them, and I there should be no I don't love that. I
You're
love
all
the
kind of on the same team in a way.
absolutely. Well, the same way when you go to theater, when you're doing theater, I had to explain this once to my husband because he's in music and he was like, I don't understand why it's so important in the theater that people aren't on their phones. Because when I'm playing music at at a club or wherever, people are on their phones and taking video. And so what is the thing? And I said, there in the theater, there is this unspoken bond and this unspoken agreement that the audience is going to let go of their disbelief. They're going to willingly suspend their disbelief that this that's happening right in front of them is not, they're going to believe in the story that you are creating for them. Yeah. They're going to invest in it. And in order to do that, they are going to give you their attention. And you, on the other hand, or me, what I'm going to say is, I got you for 1 hour, 3 hours, however long we're here. I'm going to go through all of this in as deep and potent a way as I possibly can. I'm going to take you on this ride. You don't have to do anything, but at the end of it, you will have the experience of going through it through someone else, through a surrogate, if you will. And hopefully your world will be bigger after it because of that. And you can go home and your world is still intact and everything is safe and you can go right back to your life. So you need that sort of agreement in art, I think, in order for it to have the most powerful connection.
Yeah.
And gaming communities and communities like the Marvel community and people who buy into this modern day mythology, I think that is a very, very strong bond as well. When you're playing a game as a player character, you're feeling what it feels like to be that hero. You're hearing that hero's voice is your voice. You have that agency to tell the story.
Yeah,
and
you're
that's
immersed.
right. It's so cool. You're immersed in it, but you, the player, get to have some input into how this story goes. You have this agency that you then can take out into the world.
It's such an interesting role that you play in the lives of this community as you speak, because I understand everything you're saying. At the same time, and certainly I've even seen it just again preparing for this interview. Like I think it was like an awards show, like a video game related event where they brought you up and interviewed you. There were throngs of people just screaming their heads off for you, which is something that is a much more elevated response compared to, I think, what people thought of those behind the games they liked back in the 80s or the 90s. Like you're such a higher level of superstar in a way to them, I guess. And I know that maybe that doesn't go along with what you just said, but there is sort of that recognizability of we love her.
I believe that is a function of several things. One, as time has gone on, the accessibility to people who are behind the games has grown. We have the internet, we have Twitter, we have Facebook, we have Instagram. People can directly interact with the people behind the games, which was not there for a lot of time.
Absolutely.
So those games that I played when I was a kid, I couldn't have hung out with Jennifer Hale, and yet now she's one of my best friends because we got to meet because of games and because of connecting through that world. And so I think that's a function of that. I also think that the characters that are being created now are so much more layered and unique and complex, and that the people playing the games connect to them so much more. So their love for the actor behind that comes through their love for that character, through the experience that they got to have by being a part of that community and signing on to play that game, firing up the PlayStation or whatever they're playing on. So while I don't want to diminish the compliment at all, I do think that is, again, that's something that they create, because without them, A, I don't have a job. But B, there is no quote unquote superstar, because they're the ones that make people that, if you will. And also, and then the third thing that I think it's a function of, and this one I will take a little bit of credit for, is the way that I use social media and the way that I want to interact with people in the world is in a way that uplifts them. It's very important to me that at the very least, when people leave my presence or read my book or whatever it is, they know, okay, someone out there sees me and I am not alone. Whether I'm going to be playing her game, whether I'm going to be interacting with her online, whether I'm going to be reading her book and hearing about all the terrible things that she did when she was a kid and don't do these stupid things, all that stuff, whatever it is, there, but for the grace of God, go you, because I did it for you, so you don't have to do it. Whatever it is, I think my personal love for the communities that I'm a part of, I am not stingy with it. And I am so grateful for it. And I take it as a responsibility to be a force of good in those worlds, because a lot of people, for whatever reason, do look up to that person who's on the screen or on the stage. They imbue us with a certain, they imbue us with a certain personality. And when you have a broader voice, wherever you get it, I personally think it's incumbent upon you to use it for good, whether with one person or 1,000 people or 100,000 people, however you see that. And for me, that's why I love these communities so much.
Yeah, and I mean, you've reached out to that community and engaged with them in your own ways with that positivity pretty much at every opportunity that you have. Of course, I Am Fun Size, your YouTube show, has been doing that for some time. Your book, which is an extension of that show, is now going to be bringing even more positivity into the world. I know that some people have already gotten a sneak peek, and we've got a wide release set for that in August. So
yes,
it's an exciting year for you. And, I don't want to downplay the positivity anymore, but I also want to congratulate you really quickly. Of course, a lot of people are starting to fall in love with you in a whole new way. People who are gravitating towards probably the best rated show in the MCU so far, which is saying quite a lot. On Disney Plus right now, Miss Marvel, where you are playing Auntie Ruby, and more of an auntie I have never seen on screen than Auntie Ruby. Positivity, I don't know. We're early in the game as we're recording this as far as the season goes, but positivity is not necessarily Auntie Ruby's middle name or what she's known for. But tell us a little bit about, and I love these Marvel stories because everyone is so petrified of saying the wrong thing or saying too much or, not knowing what they're auditioning for. And then, you put the bag over their head and you bring them to the, I would say the Bat Cave, but then
there's a whole thing. Yeah.
So how did you come to be a part of this cast for Miss Marvel?
I mean, I wish it was a sexier story, but I got the audition and I auditioned for it. And then I was lucky enough to be cast in it. And at the time I knew what the project was, but I had no idea what the actual role was. I assumed at the time, and was correct, that the scene was not an actual scene from the show. And when we started shooting was the first time that I found out who was in the show. Turned out a friend of mine, Sagar Sheikh, who was in the show, who plays Amir, and I didn't know. Turned out Alicia Reiner, who I've known for almost 2 decades. Is it now? Almost 2 decades. Didn't know she was in the show until, I got to set. So that kind of excitement of finding out what's happening and being a part of what's happening, it's the same as me being in the games and being excited about the games.
Yeah.
Like there's this wonderful, ooh, what do I get to do today? I don't know.
You're immersed.
Immersed and excited because, you talk about positivity, which is, it's a word that has a double-edged sword, because I don't believe in blanket positivity at all. Sometimes you got to call it out that something sucks. Sometimes you got to say that something sucks. Otherwise, you're not going to have that the flip side of things being awesome and being able to appreciate it. But this show and this crew and these creators came to this, there's so much joy in it. Yep. There's so much joy in it. There's so much joy in the comics. Sana, who has been there from the very beginning, creating this character, there's so much love and joy and joy, excitement that is invested into that character and invested into the show. And that goes all the way to the top. you know,
Mhm.
with Kevin being excited about the show and excited to hand this story out to the world that is as authentic as possible, is as something that everybody can identify with, not just one cultural background, not just one age range, not just one gender. Like, there's something in it, I do believe, for everyone. And that right there, that's the positivity for me. Because it's not about the role, it's about the story.
Yes.
And what does the story do for people? And this story, if this story really celebrates stepping into your power,
Yes,
whatever
absolutely.
that power is, your human power and
Mhm.
your superpower, whatever
Des
that is.
Despite those little voices that are around that might be telling you not to, and that's, I
Exactly.
mean,
Like
you
the
know,
Uncanny's of the world, you know what I mean?
we joke about your character, but it's such a fun character from what
Yeah.
we've seen of her so far, and just part of that greater story that says, there's always going to be an Auntie Ruby, and we're just lucky that we have someone as talented as you to play her in this show. So we're so excited that you're on. We're so excited to be along for the ride. And again, look, there's so much more that we can get to here. We're running out of time, and I feel like what we need to do is put this episode out, let it rack up like 1 million views, whatever it's going to do, and then we're going to use that as a leverage to try to convince you to maybe come back and answer a bunch more questions
Okay,
about.
so I mean, not to, like, you know, give away the farm, but I was gonna say I am very eager to come back and talk to everyone that I have gotten to talk to so far after the show has wrapped, and after the show has, you know, aired, and we
Mhm.
can actually talk about more.
We can feel-
Because I am not only, you know, under Marvel's request to keep everything under wraps, but I am allergic to spoilers. It makes me so angry when people spoil things, because the word spoil is the word for a reason. You have spoiled the fun for other
Mhm.
people. The excitement of coming to something like this as a surprise, as opposed to reading about it on Twitter. Come on. I mean, I've unfriended relatives for worse, just because I'm like, I can't trust you on social media. Sorry, it's not going to happen. You don't get to talk to me there.
Okay,
Um,
so we're
I
gonna
was
put this.
very
We're
happy.
we're gonna manifest this. We're gonna put this out there in the air. We're gonna put this out. Everyone's gonna love this episode. Everyone's gonna enjoy it. Maybe what we're looking at is a fan submitted Q&A slash post a season wrap up.
Yeah, like a little post-mortem. Well, we don't want to say post-mortem because it's not dead after it's
Right.
up,
Post
but like a little debriefing, shall we
there
say?
you I like it. A debriefing.
A
Oh,
little debrief.
mysterious.
Yeah. And I will say also, for those who are interested, I have been hosting watch-alongs on my Discord, and so far we're doing them on Sundays. So if anyone feels like watching along and getting a couple of behind-the-scenes stories as you're watching, you know, the few that I can share, I am very happy to do that. So you can find that on the interwebs. It's very easy to find.
Very nice.
I'm so grateful. The people who put together this Discord, God bless them. They named themselves the BHIMANIacs.
I like it.
They are just delicious, lovely people. So
Hashtag.
you can find us there.
Perfect. Perfect. And while we're on a plug way, so to speak, why don't we run through every, because you've got so much out there, but let's talk about before we let you go, everywhere that you'd like people to follow you or just check out what's going on, the book. Let's
Sure.
lay it all out there.
Sure. So I'm very easy to find because I'm not quiet online. So my screen name is Sweet Anj with 3 E's. Based on a high school nickname, which is a whole other thing. You can find me there on Instagram, on Twitter, and on YouTube. And then you can find me at my name on Facebook. You can Google me and find me. It's very easy to find me. I also have a public-facing email address that I specifically created for people to write in questions for the I Am Fun Size series. So that is Anjali at iamfunsize.com. So you can write me messages there. The Discord, the BHIMANIacs Discord, I drop in there every now and then. It's a lovely community of people. I'm so grateful for them. And then in August, we're going to have this book release, which is super exciting. We ran a Kickstarter last year, so that community already has it in their hands, but it will be in wide release at the end of August.
Perfect. Lots to do. You're keeping us busy, but we're excited for all of it. So
Thank you.
Hey, thank you for coming on the show. Thank you for just shedding a little light into all the cool things you have going on in your world, and we can't wait to put this out into the world. Thanks to everyone for checking us out and following us, subscribing right here on YouTube and right here on all of our podcast platforms, wherever you may be connecting with us. And for all of us, we thank you once again for joining us, Anjali.
Thank you. You take care.
You too. Bye.
Bye-bye. Are we gone? Where?